Welcome back to The Inspired Entrepreneur with Heather Hope. Hey guys, welcome back. Happy Wednesday to you. This is Heather Hope with The Inspired Entrepreneur podcast. Okay, so I am still recording Monday night. I got a little bit of a second wind, I guess. And here we are. Well, I looked ahead for today's message, and I'm like, oh yes, this is a good one too. I mean, honestly, I would just say they're all good, but some are just better than others. So if you're new here, welcome. I talk about the law of attraction, and on this podcast, it's geared towards business owners and stuff in that area. But we talk about life and manifesting love, life, just in general, spirituality, in addition to business. So today is, let me get the date right, February 3rd. I have it right in front of me. And let's jump into this. The amount of daydreaming, visualizing, and scenarios I've done makes this feel normal. Next logical step. Okay, so like I said, if you're new here, I'm just talking about some date and you're like, what are you talking about, Heather? So I wrote this book called The Inspired Entrepreneur, and it's 366 days. So it's a daily book for you to follow along. You could read the whole thing in one sitting. You could eat several days at a time. You could read several days at a time. You can flip randomly when you feel inspired to. You'll get the perfect message from the universe of what to do next, or you can just go day by day. And the purpose of the podcast, because I write in short, so I think all my future books are going to be really short, to be honest, because I love writing short. I want to say short stories. I don't write stories, but I don't like fluff. I don't like beating around the bush a million times. I'm not that kind of writer. At least I haven't ever been. Like, I used to have this friend for many years, long time ago. She would write in circles just to fill pages for school. And it drove me insane because I'm like, I just want to get to the point. I don't really like being long-winded. I like just getting there, I guess. Kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, so the podcast is for me to talk more about it, to expand on something. So the whole entire, and I thought of these two things in practically the same exact moment, to write the book this way and then do the podcast, because I wanted to do both. I wanted to write a book and I wanted to start a podcast, and they were both on my mind. And when this idea came to my mind, I instantly was like, perfect for the book. And oh my gosh, the podcast. And what's funny is, like, what? A daily podcast? Like, am I insane? So it was one of those things where it felt good, and I just didn't think long term, which is perfect. Because anytime we think ahead and we think of all the things that could limit you or limit us, that could, it will derail you. So I never think about it. Like, I know it's a year. I know, like, but I also know this is my 156th episode that I've done. So I never think past the next few weeks, the next few days. I never ever think about past the next week when it comes to this podcast. I never think about it. It's a habit. It's an automatic thing. I don't usually ever, like, not want to do it. What the heck? Oh, I just heard something. That was weird. Like, I just do it because I know I enjoy it. So anyway, enough of that. So yeah, so I write short and then I can talk long. I can talk all over the place. So that's the purpose of the podcast. So if there's any time that the point is that after a year of doing this podcast, the full year, 366 days, that it will be here And it's kind of like a reference. So if you open up the book, you like when you get the book, you have it in front of you, or you have the ebook. Highly recommend the print book. It's pretty cool. You can flip to it, and if you read something and you're just like, I'd like to hear more about that, then you can go to either my YouTube channel or the podcast, wherever you listen, and you look up that date and you can listen in to what I have to say about that thing that I wrote. Does it make sense? That like that's the whole purpose. Also an outlet for me to talk because I do like to talk. But anyway, so that's where we're at. So February 3rd, I read it. Let's read it again. The amount of daydreaming, visualizing, and scenarios I've done makes this feel normal. Not real, but normal. Basically the same thing. Next logical step. Abraham Hicks tells us about the next logical step. Now, let me give you at least one example that I have, and I've talked about it before. When I used to work with people, I would ask. So there's a lot of things I stopped asking. I stopped asking because I didn't like the answers. Because they were just, I don't know if they just didn't understand where I was coming from, or they don't know enough about this to give me like a really good answer. I asked this one client of mine how much she was going to make in her business, or not how much was she going to make. No, what was her, like, what did she want to make? Because we were talking about income at the time, income goals and vibrating at a certain income goal and all this stuff that I was doing at the time. And she said, $100,000. I'm going to make $100,000 next month or this month, whatever. Let me tell you something. This person has not ever made any money in her business up until that moment. Like, she just didn't and still hasn't. But because we were talking about income goals, or that sort of thing, and we're always talking about next logical step. What feels normal? And it was hard for me to believe, which is probably why anyway, that she was going to make $100,000 because in her business, because I know the sales cycle in her business, that it's a minimum of 30 days. You know what I mean? Like, logically, it never made sense. So it's like, when you can look at, and this is why I didn't like, when I used to work in like MLMs, or this isn't an MLM, but for example, an MLM, multi-level marketing, like, how long it takes to get paid, and how very little it is, because of the levels, because of commission, because, you know what I mean? So when you have a business that, like, too much of it, know how much you're going to make, which a lot of times isn't much when it's those kind of companies, or how many people you need to sign up or whatever to buy your products. It can sound like a lot. It can feel like a lot, especially if you haven't had any yet. So those things can really trip people up. So, but when you're in an industry that takes a minimum, like 30 days is the most minimum to get paid. And $100,000 is not normal. You know what I mean? Like, I truly believe anything is possible. But this person, this person did end up being pretty delusional more recently, but about the election recently, really interesting person. Not interesting, I wouldn't say that at this point, but just interesting mentality, let's say. But going from 0 to 100,000 in a month is possible. Like, I don't put it past the universe that they can do this. the universe could do this. I believe that, and I hate saying believe because then it's a belief system, right? But kind of money is probably flowing in pretty easily in smaller amounts before $100,000 comes in a month. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I know my experience has been money trickles in more and more trickles in. It's like you're opening the valve for money, like just like water. You're opening the valve, and just a bit at a time, and more flows in. So anyway, probably enough about that subject. But next logical step really needs to feel like the next from my experience with next logical step with manifesting things, and I've talked about it recently, is that like legit I'm not thinking about it and it happens, and then it's like, oh yeah, okay. Like no big deal. Like it made perfect sense in that moment that would happen. And I just didn't buy it. And that's just, people are at different places, and that's okay. But as a coach, it was like a little bit frustrating because I'm like, well, okay. So, anyhow, but so my point is, when I wrote this, the amount of daydreaming, so I daydream a lot and I visualize a lot daily. And I come up with scenarios quite often, meaning like actual scenes from the future, basically, like having conversations with people involved in my manifestation, or telling somebody about something, or doing, like when I win the lottery, that I've done the press conference numerous times, which now I don't think I would do one. I don't think I would do a press conference. I think I would like to not have I think I would rather be as under the radar as possible at this point in my life. In the past, I was all into being well known, and because this is my work, manifesting, and to win the lottery, like I wrote a million times. I wrote that I am, what did I say? Oh, I'm the law of attraction coach who won the lottery. Now, there are other people who've won the lottery, but I'm talking about multiple millions of dollars lotteries. That's what I'm talking about. So that was an identity that I was creating for myself, that I am the law of attraction coach who won the lottery, like whatever. And so it was going to be good for my brand, of course, right? It was going to be good for my PR. It's going to be good for everything. The Millionaire Manifester manifested millions. If you don't follow me on the Millionaire Manifester, I still have my page over there, the Millionaire Manifester. It's what I started a couple of years ago. Actually, exactly 2 years ago, I started that page, and it grew really fast. But so it's more primarily about money over there. But so yeah, it was going to be great. Like I was going to be super well known, and my programs were going to sell out. Everybody's going to want to work with me and all that good stuff. Now I'm just like, well, I don't really want to work with anybody at this point. And I'd like to have privacy. I love privacy. I love not being bothered. You know what I mean? Like I would love to be anonymous for a while, but I don't think it's possible here in Arizona, but as under the radar as possible, to have a fairly normal life. You know what I mean? So I've changed my mind on probably not having a press conference, just, being under the radar for a while, get my life settled, and then maybe do some interviews later on. You know what I mean? Write a book about it, that sort of thing. And then slowly, get enough security to surround my 20,000 square foot home. And then, write the book and do the PR and do the interviews. And then people are like, oh my God, you won the lottery? Like, it's public knowledge, but not everybody knows, right? Anyhow, see, that's what I'm talking about. Scenarios. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's what I do a lot. And I get to the point where it starts to feel normal. The more I do this work, visualizing, talking out the scenarios, thinking, planning what I'm going to do, the more I do that, and for me, it's like a hobby that I love doing. I would rather play in my imagination than do pretty much anything else in life. It is so fun. But the more I do it, the more it feels so normal because you get feelings from it. Because the universe does not know whether what you're imagining is real or not. It doesn't know. It just knows your vibration in the now, like in the now. So eventually it feels like the next logical step. There are moments that I'm like in my life and my mind is like switches for a minute of like, wait, because I've convinced myself to a point of a certain identity. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's not even, that's, for a minute I'm like, oh yeah, that it's like, it's kind of like being delusional, I guess. And, of course, when I was a therapist, I worked with delusional clients for like the entire time I worked with people. For 20 years, I worked with delusional patients. And here I am over here now talking about being delusional. And Abraham talks about being delusional. Pretty cool. So I was talking the other day about that we were watching Undercover Billionaire. It's on, I don't know where it's at, but we got Discovery Plus the other day. I love it because it has HGTV and all those kind of channels that I've been missing, TLC, all those things. And so for like $5 a month, like really, that's awesome. You get Discovery Plus. And so we discovered Undercover Billionaire. And one of the things, and I've heard this over and over from like Elon Musk and people like that, like high level, big thinkers. And I've heard, because this one woman was working with the billionaire, and his goals, his intentions, his determination to do certain things in a massively short amount of time, she kept calling him crazy. She's like, he's crazy. You're crazy. Like, he doesn't think like a normal person. Because a normal, so the thing is for that show is that there's this billionaire named, what's his name? His last name is Stearns. What's his first name? Kyle? No. Oh, Glenn Stearns. And he's a billionaire. And so he wanted to know if the American dream was still alive, that you can basically, with hard work, right? Lots of hard work, blah, blah, blah. It's really what I want to say, these people with the hard work mentality, somebody like him, what I saw was major determination, focus, not giving up on the vision. Like knowing what he wanted to do and going after it. Like I think the hard work might be, hard work is optional, but it depends on what you consider hard work as well too. But I saw massive determination, intention, focus, vision. That's what I saw. So, and I saw a lot of cool things happen. I'm like, if this show is real, because it's reality, right? Reality show. If it's real, then it showed a lot of law of attraction. That's for sure. Everything does. So anyway, so he was going to have only $100 on him, an old beat up truck, a duffel bag full of clothes, and he was going to be flown to a city. And his requirement for the team was to pick a city that is kind of up and coming, that has some kind of like, like it's not totally dead. Probably not like a Detroit or something. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about Detroit in many years. So, but just saying. So they flew him to Erie, Pennsylvania. And so with $100, his bet to the universe basically was that he was going to create a business in 90 days that has an evaluation of $1 million. So he wasn't going to make a million. He was going to create a business that was valued at $1 million. So that was the thing. And if he didn't succeed, he was going to put his own $1 million into the business that he created. So no loss. But anyway, not really. So, what was my point in this? But, I lost my point. Where did it go? Oh, just the whole thing about his, like, so to create a business in 90 days from $100, and that includes like not having anywhere to live. Like he had nowhere to live. He just had his truck, a beat up old truck, and it was winter. It was snowing outside. So he had to figure it out. So he drew upon his own knowledge, which all the stuff inside his brain was massive. You know what I mean? Like he's a billionaire for a reason. He knows how to do things and knows how to make money and knows how to put teams together and knows all of these things, right? Success principles in business, essentially, right? So he knows all that. So any random person, hand them $100, they're probably not going to be able to do the same thing because it's a totally different mindset, right? So there's a bunch of things in this show that's like, he has really amazing credit, so he got a loan for a house, like all this stuff. So, anyway, but the one thing was this one woman said, I think more people said he was crazy for having such big dreams and pushing towards them. They didn't really know the whole story. Nobody knew the story until the end, but he knew he could do it because he knew that he could do basically anything because he's worth $2 billion. He's created businesses. He's seen for 20 years how this works. So he's got a lot of confidence in this. He's got a lot of know-how. He's seen stuff happen, right? So for people to call him crazy, like nobody would be able to do that, essentially, like because of the mindset. So like he comes into town and he's like trying to figure out what kind of business to start. And you know how people talk about starting a business and then they don't do it for like ever and ever and ever. They just don't do it, but they talk about it, or they do a ton of research and then they realize, no, I don't want to do this after all. Well, that's the stuff he didn't do. You know what I mean? Like when he's talking to people in town, most people are probably thinking, yeah, he's thinking about it. We'll see if he ever does anything with it. And then like the next day he's like doing big things. And so like the average person doesn't start the business. The average person just talks about it as just maybe a dream one day. The average person never does it. The average person doesn't believe that they can do it. The average person just thinks that there's a million limitations. But this guy didn't. This guy totally went all in and everybody thought he was crazy. So my point is, be crazy. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to tell you any more about the show. I think you should go see it or go watch it. I think it's 10 episodes. It's on Discovery Plus. It's entertaining, but just know, because they'll talk about hard work and blah, blah, blah. Just know that's determination, focus, vision, declaring what you want and not giving up on it and making it happen. And when I say making it happen, I mean like keeping your focus on it strong enough that the universe makes it happen. And that was pretty incredible towards the end of like, wow. I think he just made, because, having certain goals, like as part of your financial plan, certain things that seem to be completely out of your control and that you just don't know if it will happen as a financial plan. I'm sitting there with my husband like, is that really solid business, like finance, like something to do? Like, I wouldn't think so. And then I'm like, So, yeah, you make up something that you want to have happen, keep your focus on it, you follow through, you do everything that comes in front of you, you trust. Basically, the universe comes through, the right people show up at the right time, and that kept happening. And then it happens, and it's like, holy crap, it happened. What the hell? You know, it's just really, it's pretty cool when you really dissect things. When you dissect anything with the law of attraction, it's just pretty incredible. So, okay, guys, I need to go get some water, and I'm going to let you go, and I will be back tomorrow. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye.